Day 9 of the trial. A packed Manhattan courtroom buzzes with tension. This wasn't just another celebrity case. This was the epicenter of a scandal so vast, so tangled in fame and silence, that the world had no idea what was about to hit them. The usual crowd was there. Journalists scribbling notes, attorneys adjusting ties, fans of the accused whispering in disbelief. But then the courtroom door creaked open and Ice Cube walked in. No entourage, no PR stunt, just a man carrying a worn leather folder and the weight of decades of secrets. He didn't need to say anything at first. The energy shifted. Cameras clicked into a frenzy. Some stood in shock. Others couldn't look away. He walked with steady resolve to the front. His eyes didn't waver, and the silence was thunderous. Whatever he was about to reveal, it wasn't gossip. It was gospel. And just like that, the narrative cracked. This trial, once pinned solely on Diddy, began to peel back layers of a deeper, darker machinery. Something that wasn't just about one man or one crime, but a whole system. A system built on manipulation, sustained by silence and powered by fear. The folder Cube carried wasn't flashy. It was plain, but inside, names, documents, audio, pieces of a puzzle that nobody in that room had been brave enough to lay out. Until now. The judge looked up. Diddy finally turned toward the man walking into the courtroom like he owned every truth buried under that polished floor. Ice Cube didn't blink, and when asked if he had something to present, he replied in a calm, even tone, "I wasn't invited. I came here on my own." A murmur rippled across the gallery, and that's when it hit everyone. This wasn't about revenge. This was about revelation. And the story Cube was about to tell wasn't just his own. It was the story of every artist who had been silenced, erased, or reshaped to fit a narrative not of their making. Because today, Ice Cube wasn't just a witness. He was the voice of everything the industry tried to forget. People glanced at each other, trying to make sense of what was happening. Was this planned? Was it a stunt? But then they looked closer. Ice Cube wasn't grandstanding. His demeanor said everything. This wasn't about celebrity. It was about something he couldn't stay silent about anymore. Ice Cube stood at the front of the courtroom, the silence stretching like tensioned wire. The judge gave a nod. That's all it took. Cube began to speak. Not like a celebrity, not like a rapper or actor. He spoke like a man who had carried secrets for too long. He looked the jury in the eye and said, "Some of y'all didn't realize I was never part of their circle. That's what pissed them off." A collective hush fell across the room. You could hear pens drop. What came next wasn't wild conspiracy or bitter revenge. It was structure, names, patterns. Cube wasn't offering drama. He was offering a map. He started with the club. Not the kind with neon lights and velvet ropes, but the shadowy, inner circle of the entertainment elite. He described how new talent is watched, approached, invited to parties, and then tested. They don't bring you in because they love your talent, he said. They bring you in to own it. He described grooming by glamour, how friendliness turns to favors, and favors turn to chains. They smile while they hand you the script, he told the jury, but what they're really doing is measuring how far you'll bend. Ice Cube recounted how artists were fed success like bait, then told to conform. Say the right things, take the right meetings, appear at the right events. Miss a step, and things start changing. Your schedule clears, your phone stops ringing, your image begins to crumble in the press. Then he dropped the name, Jamie Foxx. They tried to break someone I respect, Cube said. Not just take his work, take his voice. The courtroom stiffened. Cube explained how Jamie had quietly confided in him about strange encounters, sudden shifts, and a creeping sense of being watched. They don't come with threats, he said. They come with reminders. And the reminders weren't just social. They were technological. Audio recordings, video, files. They film everything, Cube said. Not just for fun, for leverage. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. This isn't paranoia, he added. This is protocol. He pulled out a paper, just one, and placed it on the evidence table. No commentary, no drama, just proof. This, Cube said, is the first crack, but I'm not done. Cube didn't just speak for Jamie, he spoke for all the others. Names whispered, careers ruined, and reputations torched by carefully placed rumors. He described a pattern he'd seen for decades, artists invited into what seemed like opportunity, only to find themselves in a maze of obligations they never signed up for. They groom you with exposure, Cube explained. But what they're really after is ownership. He mentioned the phone calls, late-night conversations with handlers, offers that sounded too good to be true, and the unspoken consequences of saying no. Cube gave examples of other stars, anonymous but familiar, who'd experienced the same path. Bright beginnings, sudden vanishing acts. People assumed they fell off. They didn't fall, he said. They were pushed. He described how some tried to speak out, but quickly learned the cost. Tabloids would publish stories about drug use, erratic behavior, or unreliability. It's not just that they shut you out, he added. They build a narrative, and once it sticks, nobody asks questions. The jury leaned in. The judge didn't interrupt. Cube's voice carried through the room, sharp, direct, grounded. He spoke about how the control wasn't always obvious. It was quiet, choreographed, subtle enough to deny, but brutal in its consequences. One day you're the rising star, the next your agents ghost you. Your crew distances themselves. Your name disappears. And for as Ice Cube resumed speaking, the energy in the courtroom changed again. This wasn't just testimony anymore. This was dissection. He started unraveling how the system worked, not as myth, but as method. They don't just control careers, Cube said. They control perception, and perception is power. He explained the playbook. It starts with access, invite-only parties, black SUVs, NDA-laced phone calls. Nothing official, but everyone knows what's expected. You walk in thinking it's a celebration, he said, but it's actually a vetting room. Cube spoke about these events. Low lights, no cameras allowed, but cameras always present. Hidden ones, security footage, private angles. The party isn't the point, he added. It's the footage that matters. He described a tactic used over and over, capturing moments people didn't realize were being filmed. You think you're networking, Cube said, but they're building your file. He didn't name names this time. Instead, he painted pictures of rising stars suddenly dropping out of projects, of actors whose reputations shifted with one leak, one anonymous tip to a tabloid. It's all connected, he told the court. Every fall from grace was pushed. Cube talked about compliance, the deals made behind closed doors. Not just record contracts or movie roles, but silence agreements. If you wanted to stay on top, you had to follow the rules. And if you slipped, if you asked the wrong questions or got too close to the truth, then came the consequences. You ever wonder why so many artists vanish? He asked. Why they peak and disappear? It's not burnout. It's exile. Then Cube explained the deeper mechanism, fear disguised as opportunity. They offer you the world, but keep you tethered with what they've recorded, what they've seen. Every laugh, every slip, every drink, it's archived. And the most dangerous part? Cube said it wasn't even about the artists. It was about control at scale. It's not just who gets famous, he said. It's who controls the fame. The courtroom was motionless. Even the prosecution had stopped writing, because what they were hearing now wasn't speculation. It was strategy, spoken by someone who had watched it unfold and finally chose to name it. This isn't theory, Cube concluded. It's infrastructure. He shared a moment from years ago before he ever spoke publicly. A young artist, full of promise, came to him in tears. She had turned down an invite to one of those exclusive events, and within weeks, her team dropped her. Her album release was delayed. Her press coverage turned sour. That wasn't coincidence, Cube said. That was punishment. He described how this artist had no idea she was on their radar until the machine started working against her. A whisper campaign, a few well-placed stories. And just like that, the industry forgot she existed. She existed. This happens to women even more, Cube added, his voice tightening. They're given ultimatums dressed as offers. Cube revealed that the footage wasn't just stored, it was categorized, filed, names attached to timestamps. They don't use it unless they need it, he said. But knowing it's there is enough. Then came the deeper twist. Cube claimed some of the footage was weaponized, not just within the industry, but shared across elite circles. Blackmail doesn't stay local, he said. It gets traded, leveraged. He spoke of conversations he overheard. Top level. Executives treating people like properties, like chess pieces. They weren't talking about talent, he said. They were talking about assets. And then Cube's voice dropped, almost to a whisper. This isn't about Diddy anymore, he said. This is about a system that eats its own and calls it evolution. A few people in the courtroom adjusted to the weight of what had just been said. Cube leaned forward again. His tone now shifted, less formal, more personal. You ever wonder what happens when someone refuses? He asked. Let me tell you. It doesn't end in a handshake. It ends in silence. He recounted stories, some known, others hidden. Artists who had been at the top of their game then vanished from headlines. Cube explained that they weren't difficult or unstable. They simply stopped playing the part. He talked about a singer who turned down a meeting, and within months, her entire team dropped her. Her tours were canceled, her name removed from award lists. They didn't just cancel her gigs, Cube said. They canceled her future. The courtroom was silent again. He wasn't yelling, but every word hit like thunder. He described how resistance came at a cost. First your image, then your income, then your identity. They take you apart slowly, he said, piece by piece, until the person you used to be doesn't even exist on Google anymore. Cube said he watched it happen to Jamie Foxx. He laid out a timeline of Foxx's decline, not due to talent, not due to choice, but due to his refusal to conform. It wasn't just that he stepped back, Cube explained. It's that they pushed him back. He pointed out how offers stopped, roles dried up, friends ghosted him, collaborations fell through. Hollywood didn't forget Jamie, Cube said. They erased him. He then brought up the moment Jamie collapsed on set. You really think that was just a coincidence? He asked. You think a man in peak condition just collapses for no reason, right after he starts pulling away? Cube didn't offer a diagnosis. He offered a possibility. I don't know what happened in that hospital, he said. But I know what fear looks like. I know retaliation when I see it. He described how the clone rumors didn't come from nowhere. They were planted. Make the public question what's real, and you win, Cube said. Confusion is the best kind of control. He paused, letting that sink in. Every time someone said no, they lost more than a job. They lost their voice. And for the people still trying to speak? They keep files on them, he added. Files they can use anytime. He let those last words hang in the air like smoke. And then once more, Cube reached for a document. This time, it was a list, dates, emails, studio records, each one connecting dots that had previously been dismissed as rumor. Cube didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The truth in front of the jury was loud enough. He explained how artists who didn't follow the script weren't just punished publicly, they were baited privately. They'll call you, he said. Offer a deal to fix it all, but the fine print, that's where they bury you. Cube said that Jamie wasn't the only one offered a comeback package. Movie deals, talk show appearances, even awards, all conditional. Play nice, and we make it look like you never left, he explained. But the price? Your silence. He described the subtle shift in tone when Jamie refused again. That's when Cube noticed the fear in his voice, the hesitation in his words. He told me once, "I don't want to disappear, but I'm not going back." The room fell heavy. Cube then told a story of another actor, younger, who had once confided in him. This man was at the cusp of stardom until one night, after attending one of the networking parties, everything changed. He, Ice Cube, rose one final time. No theatrics, no grand gesture, just a man with nothing left to hide and nothing more to lose. He looked to the judge, then to the jury. "This isn't about music anymore," he said. "It's not even about Diddy. It's about what power does when no one's watching, and what silence allows it to become." He stepped toward the center of the courtroom, his voice steady, unwavering. Diddy didn't just build a career. He built a system, one where people were praised publicly and punished privately. A place where dreams were sold at a cost no one could afford. And the scariest part? He didn't do it alone. The air was dense. Reporters had stopped typing. Lawyers had stopped whispering. Even Diddy sat still, expression hollow, body stiff. Cube continued. "You think these wild parties were about celebration? They were auditions, vetting rooms. You pass the test, you rise, you resist, you vanish." He turned toward the gallery. To every artist watching, every kid dreaming of fame, understand this. Before they hand you the keys, they'll ask for a part of you in return. Your silence, your loyalty, your dignity, sometimes your soul. He reached into his folder and pulled out a photo. "This was me," he said. 1991, bright-eyed, thought I could change the game, thought I could create without compromise. He stared at the image, then tore it clean in half. The version of me in that photo didn't make it, but the one standing here now, he's not scared of any of you anymore. Gasps scattered through the gallery. He turned to the jury again. Silence doesn't protect you. It delays the damage, and worst of all, it makes you a collaborator. Then he pointed to Diddy, quiet, pale, unmoved. "You didn't just throw parties," Cube said. "You built prisons, emotional, psychological ones, and you filled them with people who thought they were being celebrated when they were really being controlled." He paused. "You filmed it. You kept the footage, and when they resisted, you pulled the strings." He scanned the courtroom one last time. "I don't know what you'll do with all this," Cube said, "but now you can't pretend you didn't hear it." He turned to Diddy again. "You thought everyone was buried, but the silence is broken. That door you locked, it's wide, open now." And then he walked out, slow, deliberate, unshaken. A man who had just turned his truth into a warning the whole world couldn't ignore. But before he stepped through the courtroom doors, Cube paused and turned slightly, not to face Diddy, but to face the audience that would eventually watch this all unfold. "To the people in power still hiding behind curtains, your time is coming," he said. "Because you didn't just hurt artists. You manipulated an entire generation." He gestured to the folder once more. "This isn't everything. This is just what I brought today. But understand this. There's more. More stories. More victims. More evidence. And if you keep pushing, those doors you're so scared of, they're gonna open wider." Cube then addressed the media directly. "Don't just make headlines," he warned. "Tell the truth. Stop treating this like scandal and start treating it like systemic abuse. Because that's what it is." He nodded toward the prosecution. "You have more than enough to do something real with this. The question is, will you?" The judge looked frozen in his chair, as though the room had shifted into another reality. Maybe it had, because this trial was no longer a spectacle. It had become a reckoning. Cube finished with one final statement.